My name is Danielle Pitel from Angenieux, and I will be your host this morning. Darius Khondji's work is a perfect example of how a director of photography translates a director's vision onto the screen. Give a movie its mood, its color, its soul, and reaches for its heart by touching our emotions. Everything I've read about Darius, articles, interviews, comments on social media, suggests he has a unique ability to deliver a director's vision. And his loyal base of fans and followers and fellow DP all agree that he does it with incredible elegance, creativity, and consistency. They describe him as one of the most sought-after contemporary cinematographers and a true creative professional with a style that constantly grows and evolves. This requires a huge amount of talent and technical know-how, sustained by years of experience and challenging projects with some of the most well-gifted filmmakers. But how does he nurture his talent and creativity? How does he approach a script visually? And how does he choose the best lenses for each new project? There are so many questions. The first part of this masterclass will attempt to provide some answers. The second part of the masterclass will be dedicated to a Q&A session when we will respond to some of the queries we have received via social media before inviting members of the audience to ask their own question. Please give a warm welcome to Darius Khondji and Jordan Mintzer, who will be our master ceremony this morning. Thank you.
Bonjour. I knew I would make a mistake. Brains function differently. All brains are different.
This works, yeah. Hello, what's up, Darius?
So you're going to speak English?
Yes, apparently.
But we're in France.
I know. That's why they brought me. It's for the.
Je parle en français ou en anglais?
I think.
English, okay. I'm joking.
You ready? So, Darius, we were talking before this morning, and Darius and I did this book together, I realize now 5 years ago. And when we did this book, we talked all about your childhood and all the way up to the last movie you shot when we did the book, which was Okja. So I thought today what we can do is just keep the conversation going, basically, and start with the last films you did that we didn't get to talk about. Actually, when we were doing the book, the book took a long time to do because you kept leaving to shoot. You were always busy shooting something. And at the time we did the book, you were already shooting Uncut Gems, and then the series with Nicholas Refn, Too Old to Die Young. So I thought we would start with Uncut Gems, because it's kind of chronologically what you would have done. It would have been in the book after Okja. And what I thought was really interesting about this film and your work on it is it's extremely different looking than the other films we talk about in the book. It has a totally different style. It has a totally different feel to it. So I wanted to kind of begin with that, talk about Uncut Gems. We're going to show a clip in a second, but before we show the clip, I wanted to talk about your first kind of encounter with the Safdie brothers. I know before you shot the film, you shot a music video for Jay-Z with them, and which was a pretty kind of epic New York music video. And I feel like in that video, we already see the style a little of Uncut Gems that's going to come later on. So I don't know if you can talk about that first experience working with them and meeting them and your encounter with them.
Thank you. You have incredible memory. Huh? I don't have any memory. No, it's incredible. No, the music video we did with the Safdie brother was not really epic, but it was more like arte povera. It was it was like poor, I think. It was for Jay-Z, but Jay-Z wasn't there. It was just he financed a series of few music videos, and the Safdies had one to make, and they asked me to do it. And I met the Safdie brothers through one of my daughters. My elder daughter was a great cinephile and was a thing called the Cinema Club, her film site, where she shows movies. and she knew the Safdie's brothers. She helped them on a previous movie financially to help them or something. I don't know. They're very good friends. Anyway, and then she said, you have to meet these two incredible young directors and all that. So I said, yeah, of course, I would love to meet them. And it happened that I met them in I don't know, in a party or something, in a dinner. And then and one day they asked me to do, would you do this music video with them? Okay, I haven't done a music video for a while. But we did this music video in New York with the Safdies, and it was, as I was saying, it was like more like a poor, which I actually love. It was like it was it was done with not so much means. It was done very quickly. Like the way they love working. They love working like that. They actually prepare really well. This one was not as prepared as Uncut Gems, but it was with an helicopter live at the same time, shooting almost at the same time that we were sometimes. And knowing the budget of this music video, I don't know how much it was, but it was very little. And it was really very rough to do. And it was crazy, hectic schedule. The way we did it, everybody was just crazy. But I didn't realize I was doing it. I was just shooting. We had 2 or 3 cameras. I don't know. We were shooting very quickly. And then probably they thought that if you can live through this crazy 2 nights with us, maybe we could do a movie together. And then they offered me to do this movie, this great Uncut Gems thing.
And we're going to show up. We're going to watch a clip in a second. Did that kind of?
How do you show a clip?
It's going to be on the TV.
You have to go back. They have to look back.
No, yeah, they got one. They got a monitor there, so they can see it over there.
All right, okay.
But did that kind of that hectic, crazy intensity? Did that carry over into Uncut Gems? I remember you telling me like it's a pretty exhausting, intense shoot.
Yeah, it was very, very exhausting. It was, but it was only 2 nights,
No, I mean when you go over to Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems was very, very tiring, but for everyone. For everybody, it was very tiring. But they are so energetic. They give you so much. You know, when someone gives you too much, it's so inspirational. When a director is so inspirational, gives you so much, the flow is so strong that you don't really realize all the time how tired you are. You realize in the evening, or you realize sometimes exhausting, or sometimes you think things are impossible. Often on Uncut Gems, I was thinking, that's not possible. We're not going to do it. That's impossible. And then you think, well, we're going to do it anyway. They want to do it. So it is possible. Possible and impossible is a very subjective notion, no?
Yeah, we're gonna watch a clip. It's just to give an idea of kind of the feel of the film, and then we'll talk a little about what you did as a DP on it. So we can show the first clip, please.
It's crazy. It's a crazy film. But you can't see it. You have columns in front of you, no? Can you see it? Anyway, the 2 directors, the wonderful directors, they love the sound very loud. So they would show this with the sound like super, super loud. The first test we did with the movie, we tested just for us they wanted the sound very loud. It was like hardly, audible.
And so what we saw here, it's a lot of location shooting. It's a lot of there's New York streets. You're in the Diamond District, so
and all the peoples are real. I mean, real people. Everybody's real, except Adam is a real person, but he's a great actor. He's a great actor, but all the other people around are just real people.
It almost has a bit of a documentary feel. You feel like it's a Yeah, non-actors. Right.
They're real, non-actors.
It feels like you're watching a documentary about New York, about this neighborhood. So how do you as a cameraman, what kind of approach are you adapting to what the Safdies, how they see it? How does even in terms of your lighting, what can you do when you're shooting so fast in these either outdoors or in these real locations? How do you adapt to that?
You just follow the flow. Yeah. Just follow the river. You can have a boat on a very crazy river, like winding river. No, seriously. How do you light this picture? I don't know. You light it. You want to make it, you just want it to be as real as what the directors show you, all these incredible, great location that you've never been to in this street I think it's 47th Street, and you never been to this. I'd never been. I've been all around. I'd never been to this street before. I scouted it many times, and then we recreate. We build on stage a jewelry shop that we recreate in real. So when it comes to lighting, it's lit like very garishly, very ugly, sometimes very hard lights, which is everything you don't like. The movie is often everything you don't like. I mean, this movie, you know. But then it becomes everything you like because it's real, it's incredible, it's a moment of life, and that's the best, you know.
You shot on also the Safdies, and you really wanted to shoot on 35 millimeter, which you know is adds a texture to those neighborhoods, and maybe that what you're talking about, this garish lighting, you know, it gives it a little something else to shoot on film. Do you remember the discussions about deciding to shoot this on film and not on, you know, video, which would have been?
Yeah, you know, it's just so sexy to shoot on films. Just so sexy. It's just so exciting to shoot on film. You load, you know, you have a mag, you load, you put the camera and you roll. The noise of it is beautiful. The texture of it is beautiful. It looks great on skin tones. It's simple, you know, to expose. You're underexposed. You can underexpose and trash it, and it looks great. Or you can overexpose if it's the concept of the film, and it still looks great for another story, you know. It's just very sexy, you know. It's just a different thing. I love film and I love digital. It's just two different things, you know. And sometimes film digital can be very lazy. You have to say it's very lazy. It's very beautiful too. I mean, we shot this. My first experience was this show I shot for. We shot for Nicola Winding Refn, this great director, and we shot on digital. I thought we were going to shoot on film because we met in a Kodak lunch in Cannes. And it was lovely. It was a lovely meeting. It was a great meeting. My wife pushed me, oh, you have to go to this meeting. It's great that you meet people, because I'm like a bear. I never want people would film people, like cameraman or film people. I don't know, I'm too much like a bear, which is not a good thing. I envy all the people who mix, and I realize when I hear about the stories of the past, how beautiful it is, all these film directors, filmmakers who mix, who see each other's work, and they praise each other's work or hate each other's work, but they're passionate. And I'm like a dummy. I'm like, I don't do that. I never see I don't mix with cameramen. I know very few, and every time I meet them, I love them. But I just silly, you know. So she forced me. I went to this lunch. I met Nick, and a few months later, believe it or not, he asked me to shoot this show, and I was available. I was free, and I wanted to work with him. So, and then he convinced me. He said it would be very experimental. He would try lights and frame, and we could really be very free on it. It was for Amazon, you know, and we went on it, and it was an incredible digital experience, and it was shot on digital. So what do you know, but film is still sexy.
Back to the Safdies film, you know, there's definitely, it feels like a 70s movie made in New York, and so when you're shooting on film, you get that 70s feel to it. But you know, each time when we did the book, you would talk about references that you had in mind when you were shooting for different films, and they usually came from photographs or paintings. So I'm very curious, like for Uncut Gems, what you had in mind, because it just doesn't look like anything else.
I don't remember.
Okay.
No, what did I have in mind for the inspiration for Uncut Gems? Well, the directors have always great things in mind. You know, we had in mind. It was more like we had in mind like more photographers. You know, I've always have. You know, it's interesting with inspirations, with pictorial inspiration, because you always have some inspiration that. I won't say on all the projects, but on a lot of projects, they are common. They come back. And I realized with one of the directors I work with, and I love James Gray, that he has also some inspiration that he comes back to, and back to, and back to. And the movies are different. And every time we say, we're not going to talk about Caravaggio or Godfather. And we still do, you know. And it's very interesting because it's actually really embedded deep inside you, you know, all these inspirations. And like for Uncut Gems, I remember I was looking at photographers, street photographers of the 70s and 80s, and photographers, of this period of time, like like William Eccleston and other more stylized photographers probably, and then I remember mine showed me a photographer that I loved. Who was it? Mark Cohen. I don't remember all the names, but there was
So it's coming a little from photography in this case. It's
yeah, it was more photographers. I often have this inspiration for more modern contemporary stories with Robert Guinan. He's a painter, American painter. Was very interesting painter, but it's an inspiration again that I have since the late 80s, early 90s. I have this inspiration that sometimes it comes back. And remember, we were doing the color correction for Armageddon Time with James, and then James was asking me, what was this great painter that you referred to early on? And I said, and then I found, it's Robert Guinan. He said, yes. Then we looked at his paintings again, just not for inspiration, but just looking at was not really but sometimes it was actually an Armageddon Time. But we looked at it.
I remember, sorry, you telling me about working with shooting Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, and that you were pretty blown away by him as an actor and his energy. And I remember you telling me when we were doing the book that sometimes actors really even influence your camera work or how you shoot, and they bring something almost like a director would bring to a film. So I wanted to talk a little, because the whole film is Adam Sandler. We're with him the whole time pretty much, and and the camera is very close to him as well. So did that create something for you as the DP working with him?
You should always moderate our masterclasses. They're the best questions. You're talking about the actors' inspiration?
The actors, and especially Adam Sandler, because I remember you really were into.
Well, Adam is an incredible creature. He's an incredible actor. So you Adam Sandler. You think we're gonna work with Adam Sandler, and then Josh and Benny sent me some pictures. Or early on, I don't know what I was doing. I was doing another film, and sent me pictures of Adam Sandler. I said, where? And I said, who's Adam? Where is Adam Sandler on the picture? Because they were doing some tests with makeup and hair and things. Said, where is Adam Sandler in the picture? I couldn't see Adam Sandler. So and then Adam Sandler becomes like a chameleon. Like all cameramen should be. Actors are like, naturally, the great actors are like this. They transform themselves. You transform themselves for a story you're telling. And it's very incredibly inspirational. So yes, I'm sometimes very inspired by actors to get into a story. Sometimes it's the director. Sometimes the director and the actor, there is like double image, like a double image between the image of the actor and the image of the director. Or director, they become very interesting. Sometimes in your brain, when you interpret a film, when you photograph a film, you have images of the past that come back. I remember on The Interpreter, I was working with Sean Penn, and Sean Penn had images. I could see Robert Mitchum. Who do you know? Robert Mitchum. I was imagining, when I was photographing, I was thinking of Robert Mitchum in a movie, and it's very strange, but the inspiration, a lot of the inspiration comes, I think for a lot of us, it comes from the director, obviously, and the actors,
And to capture that
excite you, they excite,
Did that energy, so that excitement, and that also it's a fast movie, Uncut Gems. It keeps moving, it never stops. I mean, is that so? Was the shoot fast for you? Did you always have time to do what you want, or you have to adapt and go fast and almost again like a documentary approach sometimes?
No, on Uncut Gems, you. It's funny, this question, but it's a good question. But you never have time on this movie. I remember very often not having time to do what I wanted to do. But what you want to do is it's like a sculpture. Sometimes you never finish it anyway. So when you know you're not going to have the time to finish it, you already sketch it at the beginning. You sketch it, so if you don't have the time to finish it, you already have the ball part of it, the most important stroke out there, and then you finish it as we shoot, you know. And yeah, it was. But when you think about it, it was a crazy. Was this, the pace was absolutely mad, and they worked like that. But it was part of the film. This is part of the conceptually of how the film is. The characters are like that. How would we shoot it in a Bressonian style? You know, we couldn't. You know, it's. I don't think so. I mean,
one thing that in the clip we just saw at the end, you have this slow zoom going into those guys waiting outside, the bad guys, and so that, which for me feels very 70s as well, the kind of zooms you would see in 70 films. So, you know, I wanted to just talk about that for a second. We're at the Angenieux zoom, who makes these great zoom lenses. So I just wanted to, but I feel like that's a film where there's a lot of zooms going on in Uncut Gems. So I just, you know. Is it something you automatically you're going to use on every film, or does it really depend on
No, it's for the zoom, the vision of the way we perceive things. For me as a cameraman, I share it a lot with the director. It's the director's also, a director's point of view, you know. For instance, the two, Josh and Benny Safdie, they love the 80s, by the way. I love the 70s. You know, I'm more like 70s.
They're from the 80s,
I'm like an old person. I'm more like a 70s person, but they love the 80s. They had to bring me to the 80s, and it was probably not easy for them, because the 80s is not my favorite decades. You know, the end of year. I know it's yours. Probably.
Yeah, we grew up we grew up in the 80s.
It's more yours and James. And
yeah, those are our references.
And the Safdie see it as a vintage thing, you know. Is when they were a child, you know, but so the 80s was not my look before I did Uncut Gems, and now of course I love it. I understand the fun, I understand why it's so much fun, you know, the cinema, the art, and everything. But I don't think it was my sensibility, the 80s before that. And when I grew up, I had a hard time in the 80s in everything. There are exceptions. There were incredible exceptions in the 80s, but. What was the question?
It was actually, it was.
I always lose the throw of the question. I never answer the question.
It was actually about. I thought I was saying more 70s because of the use of the slow zoom, which is kind of a 70s motif we see in a lot of great 70s films. So.
Yeah, no, we use well, I've always been, you know, trying to reproduce to be in the 70s on movies. Yeah, no, they love zooms, but. No, they said from the beginning, oh, we'd love to do some zoom sometime for the action, for the storytelling, and I think, yeah, I mean, we do zoom now a lot in films. I've used zooms extensively. By the way, Angenieux, we should talk about Angenieux. It's nice to talk about it too. I've used Angenieux since the very beginning. I see maybe the first zoom I saw. As a student when I started was probably an Angenieux zoom on a 16mm camera with a 12-120 or something, probably zoom Angenieux. And I worked with one recently, actually, 16mm Angenieux. And then there were different phases in the Angenieux zooms, and I remember using them and putting anamorphose because early on I started to love anamorphic very early on. Actually, I was even shooting short films, and I loved anamorphic, but we couldn't afford anamorphic, so we're shooting Super 35. And then when I started to do movies, and when I could shoot anamorphic, and I anamorphosed the Angenieux zooms. I put an anamorphose on it and used them the 25-250s and zoom like this. And then there was a gap of time. I used, you know, different zooms, but different brands, but the Angenieux zoom was always a thing. And then suddenly the Optimo came out, you know, the Optimo zooms. And then we started, and I shoot a lot of commercials. I used to shoot more commercial, but now I don't have so much time for it. So I very carefully, recently I did a series of 3 at the beginning of this year. And I use the Angenieux zoom all the time. I have this big gun, this big zoom. And I love operating when I use, when I shoot commercials or music videos. I love operating. It's a very physical thing. And I'm always on a zoom, and it's an Optimo zooms, Angenieux zooms, the large format one. I never remember the focal length, but or the 24 to 90, which is the one that I use all the time, or sometimes the wide angle zooms. Sometimes both of them.
Did you operate on the Safdie's film? Because there's a lot of
No, I only operated, I think, one shot.
okay.
And they were like fascinated. They wanted to see me operating because I love operating. But on movies, I love having a really great operator. But I'm very hands-on with operating between the director and I. It depends. Sometimes it's the director with me, and sometimes I'm the one that's very hands-on with operating. So the operator is actually executing a lot the way I want it framed, And when I have a very graceful and a very, very intelligent, because intelligence is everything. And when I have a very intelligent, smart, sensitive operator, then I start to let him do more. I let all the pan, the way the sensibility with moving the camera or not moving the camera, or or handheld, or But yeah, I love operating. So commercials and music videos, I operate.
On the big
I
film.
did on Uncut Gem. I did a camera. Actually, I think I did a shot of a helicopter.
So you operated in the helicopter.
I operated a very long lens and a zoom. Yeah.
I wanted to. We're going to talk about a few other projects you did, and I think what's interesting is we just saw Uncut Gems, and I want to talk more about Nicholas Refn and the series you did, because also stylistically, it's like at the l'opposé. It's really almost the opposite in some ways of Uncut Gems. And so maybe we'll watch a clip first, and then we can talk about the clip is from the first shot, the opening of the show, of the pilot episode.
Can you put the sound louder?
Yeah,
or maybe I'm deaf, but I won't hear it.
Est-ce que vous pourriez monter le son
Film directors always, always have had the sound a bit loud.
Okay, so we're
Actually, Uncut Gem, you should be like annoying. So the film is actually sometimes really annoying.
Oh yeah. All right, so we're gonna Too Old to Die Young, Nicholas Refn. We can watch that.
Comment on dit pour le coup?
C'est pas just there. Yeah. Pour le coup, je sais pas comment on traduit.
Je vais dire en français. Pour le coup, le son était trop fort. The sound was too loud this time.
But
it's good that the sound is loud in general. Not as loud, but
it was funny because when you were looking at the monitor, every time when we were doing the book and in your house watching clips from all your movies, you were always like messing with the monitor and saying the colors are off. Every time.
Stupid. I know.
But is that something, by the way,
Never mess with digital. It's like on the reproduction of digital. It's like it's an interpretation. Everything is an interpretation.
Because this was an Amazon series, so it was only going to be seen on most. It did show in Cannes, they did screenings, but other than that, it's people are going to watch on their computers or their telephones.
I missed the screening in Cannes of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
They showed 2 episodes.
Yeah, I was here. Yeah, so
I was very happy doing this. But it's very interesting what we're saying. Can I say something that's not a question?
Whatever.
No, I realize everything is an interpretation. You interpret things. You think it's an angle at things. It's an angle. It's because it's the video. Like we photograph. We spend months and months working on a project, on a film, on a series, or on a film, or whatever, on commercial or something. And then you show it, and it's rarely what you really did it when you had it in mind, when you actually put it on a film or on digital. It's really what it is. It's an interpretation of it. So sometimes people see it, like I used to do all these color processes on film because I love the before the digital intermediate, before being able to master all the colors in the final post-production of the films. We used to do everything on film, and I loved manipulation of the film and changing the contrast of the film stock and changing the color, leaving silver on the print or on the negative, or cross-processing. We did a lot of crazy things in the late 80s, 90s, and 2000, But But everything at the end, you do all this. You think, oh wow, you do the first screening in a theater, in a cinema, and then it's shown, and it's shown differently. You know?
I remember
it's all an interpretation. It shows,
I saw somebody on the metro watching this series on their phone, you know,
which
just
is
like,
actually maybe fun. Yeah. on the
yeah,
phone.
I mean, but so, you know, that's how do you, yeah, when you make your images, when you shoot this kind of thing, then,
Yeah.
you know, that's in the end, it might be seen on somebody's phone.
That was Nick was always telling me when we were shooting. So first big experience on digital. Nicola Winding Refn, the director, Nick, he was always telling me, "Oh, my people will see it maybe on a phone, on an iPad, on a phone," and it was like, but very nice the way he was saying it. It was like, yes, it's true. But the phone, actually, sometimes I love the look on the phone. Don't you? Sometimes the look on the phone is sometimes much better than.
Oh yeah, no, but
It's crazy, no? I look at a movie that's shot in anamorphic on film in the jungle and you watch it on the phone. Wow, this never looked as good. No, but it's true. Huh? Let's be honest.
So this, you know, going back a little to your work on this project with Refn, so it's we talked about the Safdies being very fast and documentary style, and what we just watched is really the opposite of that. So how do you know when you met with Nick and you started talking about this project, what was the kind of, he has a certain style that's pretty distinct, and I feel like you came in and worked with him on that, and you know, how did you guys collaborate in terms of the imagery?
Well, it's a lot about preparation. The way when we prepare with a filmmaker, we get into this. You get into his world, and little by little, and then you start shooting tests. Then you start shooting the first day, the first shot, and then you realize, whoa, this is very, very long. And I remember on this that I was like shocked as it was very slow and very long, but it was so beautiful, you know. I'd never shot anything like that, and I could now think, I mean, it's a completely different thing, but I was thinking how I would have, my wish would have to work with Tarkovsky or with Bresson, with people who works with a very, very slow pace, you know, like this. And so this was different, you know, his world is obviously a different world, but I was very, very happy to shoot this way. It was just a lot about adaptation. It's not your muscle of adaptation and the work in preparation, how you prepare with a filmmaker that you've on a commonly decide to work together, you know. You adapt to it or you don't do it, you know.
I feel like it's
Or if you want to shoot it like Uncut Gems, obviously, you say, I can't do it, you know.
I feel like also it's really a portrait, the series of Los Angeles, a certain kind of Los Angeles, LA. It's you know, and you know, you've shot a lot in LA, but I think this is one of really the projects that's also about LA and what it looks like.
Yeah,
And yeah, I wanted to talk about those inspirations there and capturing that look of LA, that a city you know pretty well.
yeah, I think you think you know a city, and then you realize you don't know a city. You know, I thought I knew a little bit LA. I was presumptuous probably, and then Nick takes you in the valley, and the office is in the valley, and the whole most of the shoot is in the valley of Los Angeles, and you discover a new world, and then you realize like, oh well, Paul Thomas Anderson shoots all his movies, most of his movies in the valley, and he makes most incredible movies in cinema, you know. And the valley is actually very fertile. It's very, very inspiring. It's very, very inspiring area of Los Angeles, the Valley of Los Angeles.
What was it like to? This is the first. I think it's the first series you did. I know you had done a pilot with Gus Van Sant. We talked about it. That was or before. So what? And you did 5 episodes of this out of 10, and then another DP, Diego Garcia, did the other 5.
Diego Garcia,
Yeah.
great DP. Yeah.
So how do you know? And the episodes are long. They're almost each like a movie. So it's like shooting 5 movies in a row or something like that. So how do you know? Is it do you apply the same kind of rule you would to a feature, or is there something about a series that was each episode shot in order? Or I'm just curious how that works, doing a series compared to a feature film.
It's a very good question, because in this case, because the movie was the I always used to say the movie because I didn't want to accept in my brain that I was shooting a TV show. So I always said the movie to Nick. The movie looked at me like he was. But anyway, so this TV show we shot in not completely in order. I shot some episode, but not completely in order. But I shot, let's say, I shot the first episode, except for maybe one episode, and then Diego was. We're very lucky to have this great cinematographer, Mexican cinematographer, Diego Garcia, who accepted to do the other part.
How does that work also when you're two people are shooting the same project in a way, that kind of collaboration?
Yeah, that's very interesting because on this was my first experience, and I knew I couldn't shoot the whole TV show because I was going to. Nick knew I was only available. I thought I would be only available for one episode, and then Uncut Gems kept on pushing, and I was more time, and then I shot more episodes and more, and ended up shooting half of it. But first, what I was thinking when we had Diego accepted to do the second part, to the other part, Nick wanted him to continue to have a continuation and do the same. But I thought it would be more interesting if it mutates, if the image like a creature mutates during the show. You know, the image changes with
between the
Diego,
two of you.
with Diego's image. I thought it would be really fascinating to see that, to see the work. You know.
So yeah, you're letting him bring his own style and to the.
Yeah, because he's wonderful. Yeah, so why ask him to do the same thing as I do? There's no, I just do it. I just happen to do it at this. Maybe I would shoot it completely different now.
And is there, when you're doing this big series and there's just one director, which is Refn, so in a way it's like a film. Does he has a very distinct style? Is this, we talked a lot about you always talk about when you work with very strong directors, and you mostly work with very strong directors, the cinematographer has to find his space within that world that the directors bring, which is a very strong world. So in something like this, I'm curious what kind of space you found to bring something to the table, I guess, and to the project as the DP.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Jordan. But I don't know what my space is. It's all for the people to see. I don't know my space. I always say I don't have a style. I don't think I have a style. I don't know what my style is because I shoot projects that are completely different one another. But I don't really know if you can recognize the same cameraman that shot Armageddon Time or this. We just saw, right? So, and that's what excites me personally. I love this. I don't believe in having a style. For me, the style is maybe a director has a style, I don't know, a musician, I don't know. I don't believe in style. I believe in passionately wanting to make films, to participate to film and help directors making films, So my space into this, I remember having this problem. I remember thinking about the space actually. I mean, what am I going to do on Uncut Gem? What am I going to do at the beginning, early on in a prep? Where am I going to, space, right? The word space. Yeah, I remember thinking about it. But then you found it, Again, you found it or you don't, or you go. Someone else will come. We are changeable, Another cameraman could have shot Uncut Gems or could have shot this show, It could have been someone. It's very close sometimes that we don't shoot a project and someone else does it.
You talked about in the book about when you work on a project, you read the script, you read it several times, but the real, what you call the big bang, the real inspiration for what you're going to try to do as the DP comes from talking with the director and hanging out with the director. And so what do you remember for something like Too Old to Die Young, what was that like with Nick Refn, and what kind of moment did you have there with him where you started to understand what you were going to try to do as the DP?
You would laugh if I was telling you. It's completely, you can't see it in the film. It's like I was fascinated I was talking about Robert Bresson.
Bresson.
Bresson was one one thing. So, you know, it's because I wanted to bring, I wanted to, I had this idea. I love Nick and I love his film. I love his work, but I wanted to somehow for this project make things a little bit maybe differently with him. Maybe he had a thirst for something different. So I wanted to have something more calm, more observational, you know, to observe things more, you know, and watch, you know, ominously things, you know. Sometimes I don't find the English. I speak French better. You know, maybe it transpires into the look of the show in the film, you know. But we talked a lot of things. We talked of photographers too. We talked of filmmakers. I remember I had this movie that I love by John Cassavetes called Killing of a Chinese Bookie. I mean, I love all his films, literally all. I even like the really first one or second one. I love Shadows even, you know. But I love Killing of Chinese Bookies, and I remember the colors. I watch it over and over again, and I love this kind of colors where they melt. There's some you see like they melt on the blacks, you know.
Here the colors, I mean, the clip we saw, and if you watch the rest of the show, the colors can be very saturated. You know, you guys are really, you're going very strong on the reds or the blues, not only because that's the police, he's a cop, and so you have the police siren, but the police lights, but just in a general way. So is that, you know, is that something, I'm just technically curious, is that something you're doing with filters, or you're putting lights in that are colored lights? How do you get those very saturated colors?
No, we do this with lights. Yeah. With lights mostly. I used to do everything with filters.
I remember, yeah.
You remember that?
I remember you talking about that.
You were too young. You didn't see that. No, I did everything on film in the time we used to, before the digital world came, we used to do everything with filters and film stock and grads and things.
So now, so with digital, you're doing it more with...
Let's not be nostalgic. I'm very nostalgic. I don't like nostalgia. So
you're doing it more with lights?
We do with lights. We do with DI. We do with lights. Yeah, with lights, because lights are incredible now. Yeah. We were talking about how great zooms became, you know, these new zooms became, these new Optimas and all, that are very crystal and you can reproduce. And with lights, it's the same. They evolve all the time. I'm fascinated by the evolution of lights. How you can, you know, for instance, I'm fascinated by this artist's work for many years for James Turrell, you know, and I'm fascinated by the reproduction, how lights, the emanation of lights, and the progress of lights in everybody's life, you know.
Funny you talk about him because he works a lot with neon, and this film is it's a very neon lit movie. There's in this first scene, so that's something also that, and you even told me, I remember, that even the neons and the kind of LED lights, all these new evolutions in lights that you always love to work with when you can.
I love working with gaffers. When I interview gaffers, gaffer is a chief electrician, the person that's very close to me when I work. It's called a gaffer. So when I work with gaffers, I love when they're very knowledgeable about all the new technologies, you know.
I want to just, before we're gonna take some questions after, I wanted to just talk a little briefly about James Gray's Armageddon Time, which we don't have a clip of because it just you can actually talk about this. You just finished the film like last week or 10 days ago. It was really a last minute thing to get the film ready for Cannes. So it was.
It's not even finished.
Shh. It's true. There's still some, I think, VFX. There's still some things to.
Yeah, there are a lot of things to do on it. A few things, not major thing that would change anything important in the storytelling, but you know, that we can make it better.
So on the film, what
you're talking about Armageddon.
Armageddon Time, yeah. You were talking about the DI just now for the digital intermediate for a show like Too Old to Die Young, and in terms of Armageddon Time, which, well, first of all, let's talk about the decision to shoot on digital, because that was the first time you and James shot on digital. You did The Immigrant and Lost City of Z on film. James said, I will never shoot on digital at some point, and that, you know, there was this kind of rule, but you wound up going to digital, and I wanted to understand why.
Did I want to go on digital for Armageddon Time?
Or did why?
No,
the,
I didn't.
the two? Well, what happened that the two of you wound up doing?
We're a bunch of friends. Like the producer is a friend, the first AD is a friend of James and I. And we have done a few movies together, and we're thinking what's the best, you know, way to make a film. So what I love to do is to shoot tests, and I love the directors and I to choose what's the best way to make a film. It's not my decision. I still love film. I can't wait to shoot another movie on film. Personally, that's just me. But I shoot digital. Yeah, I mean, I shoot digital because I also love this camera with a very, very large format. You know, in 65 mil, and so we shot tests, and I really, really thought, honestly thought we were going to shoot film for Armageddon Time. Yeah. I was sure until the morning what James told me. You know what? We're going to shoot with the 65. So we shot with this VistaVision camera, the 65 Alexa, but we thought we were going to shoot film, because we shot tests. We shot really interesting tests in 16 mil, because I really thought the film was going to be shot on 16, which was not something that I'm very comfortable with. I mean, so other cameramen do beautiful work on 16 mil, but it's not really my thing. I haven't done 16s very seriously since my first short films in the early 80s, when I shot mid 80s, when I shot 16. Or at the time we didn't have the money to shoot 35, so we're blowing a 35. We're trying to shoot it with 35 millimeter lenses, or you know, and Angenieux zoom and all this, and then we since then I never shot 16. So we did some attempts, because some director that I love also like sometime 16, like Pablo Larraín loves 16 mil, and he does beautiful work with 16. Ed Lachman shot Carol on 16 mils, and one of the most beautiful looking film, right? So that's 16. There's no rule really, you know. So I'm only the idiot who doesn't shoot 16. So I thought we were going to shoot 16, and James really wanted to shoot this film on 16. So we did some tests, 16 mil, 35 mil film stock, and the 65. Initially I wanted to shoot another regular 35 digital 35 mil, but we didn't, because the 65 is so much more exciting visually, that it's more interesting visually than we shot only 65, 35, and 16. We screen test in the lab for hours, you know. And then we thought about it, and he really preferred I thought he preferred the 35. And in the morning, he really thought of it, and then we shot digital. But it doesn't really mean something. For me, it's like if I had shot film. I have a memory. For me, what's really important is what you see, what you discover, the shock of the discovery, and then is the image, in your emotion, the memory of it. For me, it's a memory of a film. It's a memory of film. It's a memory of a time lost, and it doesn't matter at the end, you know. Honestly, it doesn't matter.
Well, I came to visit you guys when you were shooting the film in New York, and I had been on the other sets of the James Gray films where it was film. This one with the Alexa 65, you had this new setup that I had never seen you have before, which is you had a DIT. You were working with Gabrielle, and he was in this tent that was completely blacked out, and he had all these monitors, and he was basically, essentially, and I'll let you describe it technically a little better than me, almost pre-grading the film as it was being shot, and you were in there with him, and you guys were already making decisions, and it was like, and you told me, quote unquote, it was like having a portable lab on set. So I feel like that was a new thing, and it was a new, you know, kind of technologically for you. So
how can I say it better than what you described? He said it all. It would just be boring if I was just repeating the same thing. No, if I shoot digital, I shoot digital, I prefer to really have control over it. So I control over the capture, the lenses I put is very, very important for me when I shoot digital like film, but digital. And then the transformation of how the perception of things, how you bring from what you film into what the director and I will watch, you know. And I, little by little, I discovered that I can actually treat the film as we shoot, you know. So we shoot, and I have this great artist technician who help us putting it on digital.
And does then...
And he has great references. He's an artist. He went to art school. He's like a very interesting person. So
I remember when you were in this tent, and he had put on one of the monitors below, he had written some kind of notes that was...
This is how go ahead.
Yeah, no, and he had written stuff like, I wrote it down, it was like a ghost, unreachable, time that is gone. You know, there was this whole idea of loss.
This is him. This is Gabriel Kolodny, this marvelous assistant who all the directors I work with love, you know. He's from New York, and he writes the notes, like the notes that maybe I told him, or I told the director who came in the tent, and I told James, can you repeat exactly the notes, the inspirational notes you gave us for the mood of the film, for Armageddon Time? So James actually really said it, and Gabriel wrote them down, you know. And then we had them all the time when we wanted. We were looking at color, at image, and then sometime we're not sure about something, and we look at the few notes that James Gray gave us, and
so what I mean,
transform into color in light.
Now I don't want to get too technical, but what, you know,
Don't get too technical with me.
I was when I was, you know, I know that where you shot in Queens, I grew up there, so it's not the most cinematic place in some ways, maybe. But you guys, when I would look outside the tent and see what the location, and then look inside on the monitor, it was completely transformed. There was already lots of work going on in the colors and all these things. So what is that? You know, you're basically doing already like grading the film as it's being shot, and then you're going to go and grade it again later on before it's, you know, for the official version.
No, we grade the film. We color the film. We make it so the film, we can show the film almost right away. You know, you have an interpretation, we have a look on the film, but then after, when we have a chance to do a DI, then they work on it very precisely. And then it's very interesting because what we call the dailies, what we shoot every day, and what Gabriel, for instance, put on color, and then we have every day's work on dailies, you know, like we do in the old time, you know, but we do it in digital. And then we have in the last process, the digital intermediate, when, like this time was done in LA. And we did at Harbor in LA, and we did it very, very quickly for the film to be released for the projection in Cannes. And we did it, and we changed it completely. And then when we look at the dailies, with Gabriel worked, really did a beautiful work, I thought it's a lot of it is very different. But the strength of the first draft that he did was so beautiful, so interesting. Then, you know, it was very strong for us. But then with Damien, with the colors that does all my films, we went from there. But I kept on telling Damien, Damien is a really great colorist who lives in New York. He's French, but he's in New York. And he has really very little ego, because I told him, Damien is the head colorist of the film, and I told him, Damien, don't touch anything. Do it exactly like reproduce the dailies on the DI. He said, okay, yeah. I said, fine. And then we changed it completely. It mutates into something different. I hope we did better.
Well, I saw it here in Cannes. It looked really great. And what also I noticed in the look, and this is something I don't know if you were able to do it. I know James wanted to do what's called the film out at some point in the post process. Where you did, was that done?
No, we will do it maybe after.
Okay. And can you explain that to me a little?
The film out for digital is transferring the digital, doing internegative, and getting the grain from the internegative or if you're not happy with it, going further. So you would do in America, in the States, you would do it, for instance, with photocam in LA, or in New York with the lab in New York, and you would use the real grain structure, the organic grain, and put the film and put it together.
So it gets transferred to film basically, and then it
Yeah.
will go back to digital
Yeah.
to be projected. So
Yeah.
you,
But Greg Fraser, they did it on Batman, for instance.
oh yeah,
Batman was a film out.
the new one,
The
on
new
Greg
Batman, the
Greg
one
Fraser,
Greg
yeah.
shot, yeah. He looks great. He looks beautiful.
And just a last one about Armageddon Time. There's, it was a contained shoot. You were in a lot of, you were in a house a lot, and which is a small kind of house in New Jersey.
Very contained, yeah. Very small, very intimate, yeah.
Very intimate. So, and you've worked with James before. You guys are always talking about paintings and certain films. And was there something new in the what, compared to the last two films, a kind of new inspiration that you had on this film, or that the two of you had when you shot it?
No, James brought down. It's interesting because he used the some of the words, inspiration words that he used. Sorry, that he told me early on for the immigrants, for instance. Like a religious feeling. It has to be like a religious feeling, and he told me about time lost, and talked to him about Marcel Proust, about the Search of the Time Living, that I read too early when I was younger, when I was 19 or 20. And I told him about it, and I read him a sentence at the end of the first chapter, the first book. It was very beautiful, on time lost. And we mixed ideas. We talk about ideas like this. We came back with some paintings that he loves, and from the American realist paintings that he loves and that I love, that we use also for the immigrants in a way, I mean, there are a lot. All the inspiration, all the names don't come out just now, but yeah, we use some of them. But it was interesting. Have you seen pictures of the set of the main house?
No, I didn't.
I'll show you some pictures. It looks like a house of vampires, It was all covered with black. The whole house was covered with very black material, with the big black frames everywhere. We created night because James wanted to make the feeling that it was very dark in the house. So we chose a house in New Jersey. New Jersey is very big, so we chose a house, but it was a house. The story takes place in Queens. So this house was in New Jersey. It was a very small house. It was very difficult to shoot in it. The ceilings were very low, so it was very, very nightmarish for.
I remember you telling
for
me.
a cameraman. Who's the cameraman?
Yeah.
But it was like a house of vampire. It was all covered with black and very little light coming into it, and it was very exciting. It was very intimate, very small. We're just lucky to have the best actors, the great actors.
Well, that was going to be my last question. Actually, was that so I was on the set for this scene in the film with Anthony Hopkins talking to the kid on the bench in the park, and you shot that all day long. I remember it was like shooting from different angles, and I was watching it. I had headphones so I could watch the actors, but I wasn't really moved by it in any way. I was just kind of watching it, and then I saw the film here, and I was like, I started crying in that scene. It's a really emotional scene. It's super moving. So I want to know, you as a DP, when you're shooting these kind of any film, really, do you get that emotion, or is it only something you get once you see the film in a theater?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You get emotional when you watch actors playing. Yes, you do. I use a headset all the time, like when you had one, and in some takes, you follow the actors like the granddad and the son, and you get into the story, and then you start dreaming and thinking, and you follow the interpretation, and it's magical. It's I got very, very. I usually when one of the things I miss when I don't operate is maybe being on the first row with the actors. That I miss. And I remember recently an actor told me that, I wish you were on the first row watching me, because we liked each other. We liked our sensibility, and but I miss that sometimes. But I'm always behind a screen watching the actor. Sometimes really close to the actor to be able to see it, and always listening. The voice is sometimes more important than the image. You know, the voice is everything. The sound is everything.
So I think, yeah,
So the tone of the voice, the color of the voice, the way, the debit, the rhythm of the voice is very important. The rhythm is one of the main thing of cinema, the main organ of cinema.
So you're listening as much as you're watching, at least to the actors.
Yeah.
I think now we have some time for questions from the audience. If anybody wants to ask Darius.
No question. We talk too much.
We always talk a little longer than we're supposed to. I don't know if somebody has a microphone.
I can't see anybody with this thing with us.
We have the mics.
With
okay.
all the hot lights. That's the thing with audience, and when you have strong lights on your face, you don't see anything. Maybe with your age, you can see something more. Yeah, I should have my my baseball cap. I have it on set on the interior.
Hi, Darius.
I can't see your faces.
Here.
Hello, how are you?
Fine,
What is your name?
François.
Bonjour, François.
I'm not from press, I'm just a fan. So
Thank you.
my question will not be better than yours, Jordan, but there can be a lot of stressful situations on set, really tenseful. Like when you are running out of time, the director gets anxious, the assistant directors like running all around. How do you protect yourself from this tense situation? How do you keep your creative control in these really tenseful situations on set?
François, it's a very good question. You make me very tense now. I'm getting very tense because I'm thinking about the next movie. I'm going to be like this often. Not always, but often. I don't know how we do it. We just have to do it, you know. We do it with preparation. The more you prepare, the more you see things coming. It's like a car coming onto you in the street, you know, an accident coming. The more you can pre-visualize things, the least tension you have. Sometimes you have a tension, but then you are ready for it. And in the morning you have to, you know, I should do meditation or yoga or things like this would be the best thing for me at the moment, you know. But I agree with you. It's a very, very tenseful. That we never talk enough about this in cinema is the tension of cinema, because, you know, there's a lot of it. I'm sure I hear about these movies that get, you know, they go, everything goes really well. It's all great and fantastic, but there's always tension. I don't remember when I did a movie like this, but maybe they say far back. I remember there was a movie that was so pleasant to shoot. It was called Stealing Beauty. Io ballo da sola, the film by Bernardo Bertolucci. It was very pleasant, very nice to but there were always tension, you know. When you have an actor who plays a man with a young woman, you know, young man was Liv Tyler, and the actor is dying from cancer in a story, and is all these things. It creates tension on the set, because you are part of it. If you're not part of it, you're an idiot. You should get out of the set, you know. Cinema is passion, you know. You have to be passionate about the story you're telling, you know. So, but there's a lot of tension with the AD running around, exactly what you're describing. I don't have a secret for that. I'm like you. I'm like all the filmmakers where some of them cope with it better than others. People say, "Oh, Darius, you seem so calm." Often directors tell me, "Oh, you seem so calm. You're very calm." I'm not calm at all. I'm not calm. I look at them like they're talking about somebody else, you know. I'm not calm at all.
I just wanted to add, I remember, so on this day shooting Armageddon Time.
I'm super nervous now.
In the park for Armageddon Time, you were calm, but then there was a point where you had to get this shot of Anne Hathaway in the car watching them, and they were starting to lose the light. And I remember everybody scrambling, and it was really, you know, a last second thing. And you had usually where you're very laid back, you had to suddenly get the AD and everybody to go and run and get this shot. And then, you only basically got 1 or 2 takes before the sun went down, but it turned out to be, one of the, I mean, it's a beautiful shot in the film, maybe one of the more beautiful shots. So there's something like almost sometimes you get, I don't say you get lucky, but sometimes you just get it at the right moment, but you have to rush.
Absolutely, I remember very well this moment.
Okay, other question.
Thank you for your question, François.
Hello.
No more questions?
Hi.
Where are
First.
you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
What is your name?
I'm Alex.
Hello, Alex. I'm
Hello.
Darius. Hi.
I read somewhere that a dream project for you would be doing On the Road in black and white 16mm. I was just wondering if that's still the case, why that text in particular and why you envisioned it in black and white.
Thank you for it's a very good question. I love that story. I love that. But they made a film. They made a very interesting film, a good film out of it. Who makes it? A Brazilian director,
yeah.
with Eric Gauthier.
Yes.
They made a really nice film out of it. But yeah, that's a story I would love to. I would love to interpret, to make. Yeah, to interpret. I mean, to photograph. Yeah, it's just a beautiful story. It was always been my dream to make a road movie, to make a story, like you were saying, that comes forward like a river, like where you discover things where characters comes out of the blue, and I love this period. Also, I love this period of time. I'm reading a book on Bob Dylan that he wrote at the moment, and I just love this period of time, and I wish I could photograph a film about this even today. Did I say I wanted to direct or shoot it? No,
I think shoot it, yeah.
shoot at it. Yeah.
It also reminds me that period is from one of your favorite photo books, The Americans, which is also, in The Americans it's the black and white images of the U.S. at the time of On the Road. It's this,
Yeah.
and Kerouac wrote
That's
the
a very good-
introduction to that.
Alex, that's a very good point. Yeah, that was also a period very early on, talking about inspiration. Was my really, really early inspiration when I was doing my first picture as a cameraman, The Treasure of the Beach Islands by Osong. My Bible was, it was 1989, 88, 89. It was the Americans by Robert Frank. That was my Bible, and still is today. It's a book I travel. I used to travel with it all the time, and like a friend. I often believe that books that you love, books of photographs or paintings are like friends. You bring them along with you. And
Have you seen Pull My Daisy, his film with Kerouac?
yes,
Okay.
I saw it really early on. Yeah, very interesting,
Great
very
film.
good. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Una from South Korea.
Hello, Una.
Nice to meet you. And
Sure.
I know that you're working with many great actors before, but do you have any specific principle when you're shooting actors' face, and among the many objects, and who was the most beautiful creature you ever shoot?
The most interesting actors I've worked with, or more beautiful. I'm often amazed and like a kid with actors. I watch them and I'm fascinated by some actors. The most beautiful actors I photographed. I loved photographing Anne Hathaway on Armageddon Time. I really like, because it was a completely discovery for me. I knew this actress. I knew her name. I knew she was a good actress, but then it was a discovery to see it on our movie. Sometimes you don't. I'm lucky enough to work with really good directors, but sometimes you really wonder about the casting, and then you hear, and then because it's James Gray or some other great director, and then you discover the actors are actually incredible for the part. I remember it was the same with Marion Cotillard when I discovered. I love photographing Marion Cotillard in The Immigrant, talking about James Gray, for young Polish character, who comes to New York. I was fascinated by her when I was photographing her, or Tilda Swinton when I worked on Okja on the beach, and many actors. Anthony Hopkins obviously was great. We had him on this film, and who was the most fascinating? All the actors. Often actors are fascinating. Very rarely they are not. But I don't think I answer your question properly. I'm not very good at answering questions.
The two last questions.
Hi, Darius. Thank you for.
Hello.
It's here. Hi. Valentino from Filmmakers World, digital community of filmmakers. And I have two small questions for you.
Hello,
One
Valentino.
is, sorry?
Hello, Valentino.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for being here. The first question that I have is, what kind of lenses you suggest for young filmmakers, as I said, to start with, to start their journey, to pursue a career like yours? And the second question is, in terms of Angenieux lenses, do you have a preferred one? And do you have an anecdote according this preference? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Valentino. I mean, all lenses, it all depends on the script, on the story you're telling. But all lenses can be exciting, So I often thought about lenses that I would think I would never use because they're too sharp or too crisp, too sharp, too, for the story. Because I love lenses that are not necessarily very sharp. I use a camera that's supposed to be the sharpest because it's very big sensor, but I actually don't use it like this. I don't use it as a very sharp camera because I don't like these images so much. But it depends of the story. So lenses, you would start with any lenses, Valentino. My recommendation was testing. The most important thing is testing lenses. I was just talking about Angenieux just now, and I was thinking the first thing I want to do is test these new prime lenses they have. I heard they have Angenieux's prime lenses, And I've been using Angenieux since I was a camera assistant, I remember, or even before I was a camera assistant. I bought a camera in the late 70s. I bought a 16mm camera, and I had an Angenieux zoom, a 120 zoom. It was an Arri camera, but I don't have this camera anymore, or the zoom. But I used recently, an anecdote I used recently, I was shooting a series of commercial. I don't shoot many commercial now, but I used to shoot a lot. And I shot a commercial recently in Paris, very artistic commercial, visually artistic commercial, very free. And I went to the rental one afternoon, like you would do, like I would do a young student, I mean, I'm not anymore, but I spent an afternoon at a rental place to test lenses. And I went there and I tested lenses. And one of the lenses that was the peak of my lens that I love was an old Angenieux. It's not because of Angenieux I'm saying this, but I use an Angenieux because the guy of the rental, the person is actually a friend, Samuel at RVZ in Paris, not to tell the name. He's a great guy who was passionate about lenses. He pulled out this zoom. He said, Darius, you should really look, or one of his guys pulled out this lens. Said, look at these old zoom lenses, Stanley Kubrick used a replica of this zoom for Barry Lyndon. So I was a few weeks before I shot this commercial. I said, oh, let me have it in the package for one of these commercials. Because I wanted to test it, I wanted to try it. So I tested on a commercial, and I shot a lot of the commercial with it. And it was not very sharp. It was from I don't know, they would be able to tell you more exactly, but it was a 16mm lens that was modified for 35. And Stanley Kubrick used it apparently for Barry Lyndon for all these big, wide openings that everybody knows. Everybody knows this film. It's a masterpiece, And he used it, a 16mm zoom lens, and he did all these wide. And I used it, and incredible. And it was a young artist director who was doing this commercial, and he was also fascinated by it. He was a poet, and he was fascinated by it. It just happened I spent the afternoon testing lenses, So this is like a new film student, in a way. I put myself into. You need to put yourself into this all the time, in order to grow. Otherwise, you don't grow. You don't see anything. If you're not curious, What is distinctive from young film students, from young cameramen, young film, is curiosity, right? Curiosity. If you're not curious at my age and what with the movies I do, what do I do then? I should start gardening. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but I should do something else, you know, or design gardens or do something different, you know? So I don't know if I answer your question, but in a way I do, I think. The long
We have
answer.
one last question in the audience.
Yeah,
You can go.
I'm Randy DOP from India. Generally, while filming a movie, do you apply your special LUT on set, or you shoot it clean and then go to the post and work it? How do you prefer? You create your own LUT, apply on a camera, and prefer shooting it, or else shoot it clean, then do it in the post?
I'm sorry, Randy. Can you rephrase your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, while filming a movie, you create your own LUTs, right? LUTs, your look and feel. You create a LUT. Do you apply it on a camera and film it, or you shoot it in a clean way, and then your DIT does it and send it to the dailies, or you do your color grading in the post? How do you prefer it?
I understand your question, Randy. Now, I try to do everything on the shoot as much as I can. I'm old-fashioned. I belong to the era where you do everything on camera, and at the time you dreamed of doing a lot in the post, and now I want to do the opposite, to do as much as possible on camera. Like many of us, I hate when people say, "Oh, you'll fix it in the post." Fix it in the post. I hate this expression. I try to avoid it, but it's true that sometimes it's much faster to fix it in post. It happened. I have to be perfectly honest. On set, sometimes you do something. Say, okay, I'm going to do it exactly like this. Fix it in the post. But mostly, Randy. I try to do everything on the shoot. It's much better, much more exciting visually. For a director, it's also more for everyone. For the actors, it's more exciting to do it on set.
True, I believe in that old school discipline. I do believe in that old school discipline. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think we have to stop now before you wait. You have an interview just after. So I really want to thank you, Darius and Jordan, for this
You're
exceptional
welcome.
opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.